If you thought EVs were boring appliances to get you from A to B, you might want to think again. You're watching the Hyundai Ioniq 5N drifting on the ice at a proving ground in Sweden. It's coming to Australia soon, joining some lethal performance cars that are set to change the way that people look at EVs. That is some amazing footage.
It is. I mean, the performance is amazing, and the engineers are only just starting to unlock the potential of electric vehicles. But there's something missing there, Dave.
There is. Electric cars are by nature silent, which means you're not getting the thrilling noise that you might normally have from a high-performance engine. To me, that's like listening to music without a beat.
Well, it's a moot point for me because it's going to be a long time before I can afford a $100,000 plus car.
Now in the current cost of living crisis, not everyone has the budget to buy a Hyundai Ioniq 5N, but there are more affordable alternatives, as Toby Hussey found when he put a second-hand Ioniq through its paces.
It's lighter than a Tesla Model 3 and with more torque than a Honda Civic. From the city, you'll get well into the country on a single charge with enough room for a weekend away. At around 30 grand, a second-hand Hyundai Ioniq is an affordable option for your first e-vehicle, but is it worth your while? No shortage of storage space in this one. If you open up the centre console, plenty of room for a phone or a book or a water bottle. Down here, enough room to fit a small baby perhaps. Boot space is about 560 litres, which is the same as a Model 3 and nearly 30% larger than a Nissan Leaf. Right off the production line, Hyundai claimed this car could get about 280 k's on a charge, though realistically the figure was around 15% less. But one area that does get let down is if you're driving on a warm day and you decide you want to use the air conditioner, it will sap a bit of your battery power. At the moment it says I have about 111 kilometres left in the range, but if I decide I want to cool myself down, it drops straight to 93 k's. If you're looking to charge your car at home, you'll want a dedicated system, and with the right kit, Hyundai claims the car can charge to 80% from flat in about half an hour. And now let's talk about the looks, because Hyundai clearly wanted this to look like a normal car, and it ticks that box, but it also means you're left with something a little unimaginative. So overall, the 2019 Hyundai Ioniq leaves a little bit to be desired, but if you're buying an EV on a budget, especially one that claims it can get close to 300 k's on a single charge, you're gonna have to make some concessions.
Is it worth buying a second-hand EV though?
Well, the technology's moving so fast, I don't understand why you would buy one.
No, I wouldn't buy a second-hand iPad, I know that much for sure. What about you, Dave?
Doesn't really make sense, particularly when EVs are becoming much more affordable. There are 3 electric cars that you can buy right now for less than $40,000, like this MG4. They say you get what you pay for when choosing a new car, but this might be the model that breaks that rule. It's called the MG4. It represents one of the cheapest electric cars on sale today. In fact, it was the first EV in Australia to go on sale for less than $40,000 plus on-road costs, or about 41 grand drive away. That is cheap. That's really important. In a world where most electric cars cost more than 60 grand drive away, this thing really does represent a counterpunch to the EV establishment. So what do you get for the money? The core of the car is a 51 kilowatt hour battery mated to a 125 kilowatt electric motor. In English, that means you'll get around 350 kilometers of range and you'll hit 100 k's an hour in less than 8 seconds. So you won't win too many drag races against sports cars, but you will be more brisk than most cars on the road. Not a bad thing. The interior is a winner as well. You've got a great digital display here in front of the driver that has a clear, legible digital speedo right here in front of you, something that you're not going to find in a Tesla Model 3 or a Model Y. The touchscreen here is a 10.25-inch unit that has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but not SatNav or wireless phone charging. You've got to pay to upgrade to a more expensive model to get those kind of features. The MG4 has exceeded my expectations. It's great to drive, it's packed with features, and it feels like fantastic value at about $41,000 drive away. It really does suggest that when you're choosing a new car, sometimes, just sometimes, you might get more than what you pay for.
One of the things that I think we should touch upon is just charging etiquette and the lack of common sense when it comes to public charging. I mean, how many times have you gone to charge and some random is just parking there using it as a car space?
So my pet hate is people who insist on charging to 100%. I mean, it takes almost as long to charge from 80% to 100% as it does from 0 to 80 because they're protecting the battery. But these people are quite happy for you to spend 40 minutes just waiting for them to get that last little bit of charge.
You've had an incident before while charging.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you go onto a fast charger. They're usually very popular during the day. So sometimes the only time you can jump on is at nighttime. And I had a very scary encounter with a very creepy dude who went to charge his car at the same time, walked around my car, ended up leaning on my car door, just made me feel very isolated and vulnerable. And it's something that, I mean, Richard, you've got daughters. I mean, how would you feel if they were in a situation like that?
Yeah, no, it's not a good look at all. And it is something that I personally hadn't thought of before, but it is an issue if you're there late at night waiting for 40 minutes for your car to charge.
I've had some pretty average charging experiences as well. Recently, I was charging up by the side of a road at a really ordinary charger that didn't have safe parking or lighting, things like that. It really is a question that needs to be addressed. But the actual process of charging an electric car is really easy, as I've found. Charging an electric car isn't hard. Most EV owners charge at home. It's usually the cheapest and most convenient option, but it's not the fastest. Home charging can take more than 24 hours to deliver a full battery. Rapid charging stations such as EV's 350 kilowatt outlets can add 500 k's of range in about 20 minutes as long as you have the right car. But even regular 50 kilowatt fast chargers like this one are significantly faster than granny charging at home. You only need about an hour for a big charge. And it's much cheaper than buying fuel. Chargers like this cost about 50 cents per kilowatt hour of energy delivered, so you could fill something like this Polestar 2 for about $40, less than half the price of a full tank of unleaded in a similar sized car. It's not hard to make the switch. We've got 60 seconds to cover some of the biggest issues in the electric vehicles world, and I've got my stopwatch ready. The first subject is a topical one. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns hinted this week that the Labor government might follow the lead of Victoria and dump its $3,000 subsidies for electric vehicles. Your thoughts, Emily? And you're on the clock.
Bad policy for me, because the more EVs on the road, the greener our future's going to be. And now we've got a Labor government overturning a very good environmental policy that the Liberal government just put in. A bit topsy-turvy.
I agree it's bad policy, but I think it's good politics. Chris Minns is a Labor Premier. He knows where his bread's buttered. He knows that if he can paint EVs as a rich man's game, then he can save some money in the budget by dropping the subsidies. I don't think it's the right thing to do, though, because the EV market's changed in the last 6 months. You've got BYD come in, MG. So you're looking at EVs that are 40 to 50,000, and they're not being bought in Vaucluse. They're being bought in Liverpool or Dandenong.
Dom, you're one of millions of people that live in an apartment. Now, that's not always a great situation to be in if you're considering an electric vehicle.
No, what you got to understand, Dave, is most people in apartments are renters as well. And to get infrastructure put into your car spot is next to impossible, because you don't get a choice over what you get to do in the apartment you live in. And that's what's most concerning for a large part of the population, is that electric cars are impossible for them to use and charge at home.
People are having to rely on other charging sources, aren't they? And there just aren't enough of them. I was speaking to someone from EV Networks this week that was saying that the forecasted sales of EVs are well below what is actually happening out there. There are far more EVs on the road than the charging infrastructure companies were expecting to have. That makes life pretty difficult.
It really does, because we've all been caught out going for chargers, having to wait in long lines to get your chance to charge, which most people don't have a few hours in their day to give up for charging. At home is the perfect way to do it, and if you're in an apartment, good luck.
We're going to end with something hot off the presses. Polestar has just released the latest version of its electric sedan. Let's have a closer look at the Polestar 2. This could be the electric car to end range anxiety. It's called the Polestar 2. Now, we've seen the Polestar 2 before. It's been on sale for a couple of years in Australia, but this model is heavily updated. It's got some huge changes, and they are under the skin. Yes, it looks quite similar to the previous version of the car, and that's no bad thing. It's quite a crisp, handsome luxury car. At least I think so. The model that we're driving now also has a new battery, a really big battery. It's 82 kilowatt hours, and what that translates to is a claimed 654 kilometers of range. That is a huge number. You're not going to find too many EVs that will do more than 500 Ks, and certainly not many that claim more than 600. That is really impressive. Costs about $75,000 drive away for the single motor long range version as tested here. You need to spend a little bit more than that to get all the great luxury features that you might want to have in the car. On the inside, this is a really nice car. You've got sustainable recyclable materials used throughout. You've got a huge tablet touchscreen here, a massive digital dashboard that presents quite beautifully. And just on the whole, it feels like a really well-built, well-sorted car. One of the most comprehensive electric cars on sale in Australia today, and it's not bad for the money as well. The Polestar 2, very easy car to recommend.